Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Don't Tell Me How to Fan. My name is Josh Albrecht, and with me, as always, is my good friend, John Taylor. John, how was your birthday?
It was great. It was great. Capped off a beautiful weekend by getting some wood today. What a good day.
Okay, I was like, that could go in many directions.
Some
I
wood
now know
wood rough that is.
you went to play some blackjack
Yeah,
on your birthday. How'd that go?
it was
You
great.
win?
I didn't lose, and that's a
Okay,
win in my book.
that's a
Yeah, yeah,
win.
yeah. I was up a little bit, and then we were waiting for one of my buddies to do something, and I kind of just like threw a bunch of money into a slot for the bit. So I ended up being down like 20 or $30 all told, and we were there for like 6 hours. I thought I was
Yeah,
going to be
that's
there
fine.
for
That's
yeah.
fair.
So it was a
Yeah,
good little day. It was fun.
yeah.
Yeah, did that. Got to see a bunch of people all weekend. So just a lovely little birthday weekend. Thanks for
Nice.
texting me nice and early.
Yeah.
5:45 a.m. my time, so just nice and early.
Wanted to make sure I was just like in there right away. Yep.
Yeah, yep,
Make
you
sure I
sure
didn't
did.
forget. Put it in all the group chats. I
That's
was like,
right.
want to make sure I was the first one, all the group chats
You
too.
got it. You
Yep.
definitely got it.
Had to make sure I was the first one out there. Happy
Yep,
birthday, JT.
yep. And it's a big birthday too. A lot of people talk about how important 36 is to a
Yeah.
person's
Huge.
development.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say this is the last
Milestone.
year you can hit a growth spurt. So fingers crossed, I get above 6 foot.
Yeah. Did it
Science.
happen?
I
Is
mean,
it?
I got a whole year to figure it out.
Oh,
But
okay. The whole
no,
year
I'm
of
saying
36.
36 is what I think when you officially have to cut it off.
It's not when you turn 36.
No, I
It's,
just think like they're like they're like 36 is when you probably can close that book on
yeah.
growing. You
Is
know?
that true? I'm very gullible.
Yeah, no, I'm lying. I've
Okay.
stopped growing a long time ago. So does everybody else.
Yeah.
the
I was gonna say, I'm
only
pretty sure you start shrinking like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
40.
The only thing that's growing is my forehead. As my hairline is
Oh, hats are the best.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's fine. I
huge
have
fan
hair.
of
It's not a big
huge
deal.
fan of hats.
One
Sorry. Do
don't
you want to
don't
go?
be
You want me to go?
no
You go?
no
Yeah.
go you go
Okay.
you go.
One thing that I do love is that it was National Welcome Back Brandon Woodruff Day today. The day that
Yeah,
we're recording this podcast, being Sunday, July 6th, was also the return of Brandon Woodruff for the first time in 2 years, which I don't know how. It seems like he's been gone forever, and yet when they were going through all these stats and saying these things, I was like, "No, has it really been like that long since he's?" But I mean, yeah, they would know, right? It just, I don't know. It was a very weird feeling um, when they were talking about how long it's been
yeah.
since
I
he's been
mean,
out there.
it's about eight yeah 18 months, way longer than that,
Yeah,
almost two
it's
full years. It's
it's
crazy.
been nuts. And
Yeah,
then to see him just come out and just dominate. Now I understand it was Miami, but
yeah.
what do you have? Eight strikeouts, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run.
I think you got it all. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. 6 innings, 1 earned run. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Oh,
I don't
dominated.
think you could have asked for a better start. Um,
No.
there was some stuff there. It's his velo and his pitches weren't exactly where you like to see it. But we're 2 years away. I mean, at the end of the day, like he's touching 94 pretty consistently with his fastball. His pitches, I forgot how nasty all of his pitches are. He threw 6 pitches today, um,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Uh, yeah, and they all look so good. It's a sight to behold. We say this, and I know I felt it in the moment, and I always brought it up that I felt like there was like two schools in the Brewers camp where it was like keep Corbin, keep Woodruff, and I was always like, you got to keep Woodruff. And I don't, it's just like, it always felt like such a more like calm, collective, just like, it was like
Mhm.
steady domination. Like, I think Corbin is probably his ceiling is nastier at times. Like, I don't know if Woodruff can touch Corbin at his best. I don't get me wrong. I just think you see a better product on the field by Brandon Woodruff. And he just has always done it the right way. I think that's the other thing I've like really
Think
like failed to like really remember is just like how steadying of a presence he was as a leader in that rotation, probably in the like locker room as a whole. And say what you want. And I'm pretty sure I don't remember who was on the call today, but they brought it up like injury leadership voice versus like on the mound, like getting your team's wins leadership is very different. And that is definitely something this team is lacking or could use more of with, the exits of like Adamas and Corbin and, a lot, Devin, just a lot of the guys that got them on this generational isn't the right word, but got them on this like last run of success that we've seen over the last 5 years. They're not really there except for Brandon. So it's like awesome to see him back and deal the way he did.
Yeah, I think a few things. First, Jeff Levering and Vinny Rottino, our friend Jeff Levering on the broadcast TV broadcast call. I actually texted him when they brought up the his home run against off of Kershaw, which is my favorite like single Brewers moment ever.
Do you know where you were when that happened?
Yeah, I was at the game.
Oh, so that's pretty easy.
I was at the game. I'd been looking at the scoreboard, saw that it said that he had a home run that season, and I went, he did. Huh. Well, I'll tell you what, if he hits one here, I'm taking my pants off. And then 2 pitches later, he went yard. And I was with Mitch Thunder Nellis, my buddy, and he literally like turned to me and he was like, let's go. I was like, oh, let me tell you, I did not expect Brandon Woodruff to call me out on this. But it was an incredible moment. I couldn't believe it. The whole place was shaking. We were all losing our minds.
Yeah. I was in the middle of a shift. I used to well, I ended up being the general manager, but at the time I was an assistant general manager to like a local like restaurant here. And I remember, I like snuck away like mid service and just like looked at my phone and just like had just missed the home run. And I remember specifically trying to explain to everyone there why it was such a big deal that he hit the home run for us to win that game. Like, it was just like, it was so tough. Not sports fans, have no idea who this is. It's just like there at no point did I have anybody go, I know what you're saying. I was just like, this is a big deal. And I cannot effectively communicate.
Celebrate this with me.
Yeah. And there's no one. There's no one for a long time. Yeah.
It's brutal.
That's okay.
But no, but it was that was a great moment. Seeing him out today was great. They talked about just him a ton. They talked about how Yelich, before the game kind of gave a big speech about all the work and just who he is and everything. And to your point about him and Corbin Burns, I think that they were both very, very good pitchers. And I think we were all aware that Corbin was going to command a lot more money. And so it was very easy for me early on to be like, don't worry about Corbin, but keep Woody. Yeah. Like, that's the one we can fight for. But on top of that, he just, there were times when his stuff was nastier. And it did seem like everywhere that Corbin was a distraction in the locker room with, you remember all the arbitration cases and all of the way that all played out. And you never got any of that from, Woodruff. It was always just team player doing what you expected him to do. And yeah, it was absolutely awesome to see him come back when, I'm not going to lie, I didn't think for sure that it was ever going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it was getting to the point where you have to wonder if at some point do the Brewers wash their hands of it,
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of bad breaks. But I mean, ultimately, I seeing how he pitched today vindicates the long road. Clearly, they knew he could get back to a quality starting. And listen, could he come out and have a stinker or a couple? Maybe. But it was so important that the organization, the team, Brewers fans, the entire league being put on notice that like he still has that in him. I mean, we're talking about, I love our pitching rotation, or like our starting rotation. I said that last episode. I talked about how I thought it was all appointment viewing. But to have a guy just come back and be like, hey, hold my beer, metaphorically, I'm just going to put in 6 strong innings when Freddie's, I don't want to like, spoil the fun, but it's like Freddie is getting an all-star nod and he has a hard time getting through 5. Chad Patrick, he just got optioned. I mean, his stuff is electric, but they're pulling him at 72 pitches yesterday because he can't get through 3 because his stuff, while it is dynamic, people get used to it. They can figure it out. So it's like to have a guy come back and just be like, hey, this is the standard. This was the standard. I am the standard. And, like I said, did they let him stay in long because he was dealing? I don't think they're going to, do you know how many pitches he threw today? I guess that should be the real question I had. I guess my point.
I don't know how many pitches, but I know that there were a few innings where he threw less than 10 pitches.
Yeah, he averaged like 11 pitches. I remember. Yeah. He like 11 and a half pitches per inning, which is just absolutely incredible stuff. So it's just like he did everything he needed to, I guess is the real big point. My point being like they let the Miz hang out there a little while, a while for the first one, the second one, and then they kind of were like, we need to be mindful of his arm, and he's
Yep.
on a completely different trajectory, right? Where they're talking about career. They're limiting his innings now so that way hopefully he can be pitching for many more years to come, right? But it was just incredible to watch, like I said. Um, and yeah, so um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's funny. I'm finding this is like breaking the fourth wall, but I'm finding myself being more like emotionally attached to the start more than I realized I would be. Not like I'm like going to start crying, but I just like when I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, man, I'm not being very direct with my thoughts because I'm just like so happy. Like you know what I mean? It's like
right.
that's like the
Well,
first
because
and
you're
foremost
happy as
thing.
a fan, you're also
Yeah,
happy for him. Like
yeah,
that's the other thing too, is that this wasn't a player that like we signed and then got injured right away, and then like now we're seeing his stuff. Like we've already gone through emotional roller coasters with Woody.
yeah.
We've seen him pitch absolute gems for the Brewers. We've watched his whole career. And so it was being able to see that again, and then like you said, put all the doubt to rest of okay, but what Woodruff do we have now? You hit today, it was Woodruff, it was Woody, it was who you wanted. And so
Hmm.
that was great. That was great to
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
As you did mention, the other big Brewers news was that Freddie Peralta is going to be an all-star for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's going to be an all-star because every team has a all-star. Um, and ours is going to be Freddie Peralta. Um, he might see some time. I feel like a lot of times with pitchers, they'll get through them, and so he might get an inning depending on how the game goes. Your thoughts overall on the All-Star game?
Um, I like I I like it. I like it because really it's like and I don't love it because the stakes aren't what they used to be. I remember you saying like, "Oh, it doesn't matter." What I like about it is baseball is like the only real sport you can play at 50% and still have it be like a really enjoyable product.
Yep.
Every other sport, it's like it's borderline impossible to like just have it be such like a true exhibition where the fans are getting their money's worth. And I think between like the home run derby, I think there's just like the All-Star weekend, I think it just lends itself to the game of baseball so incredible. It's such a natural fit that even when I don't love it, which I would say like right now, it's maybe not my favorite, and it could be because there's not, Christian Yelich isn't, in the home run derby. You know what I mean? There's not a
Mhm.
lot of like big bats that make it exciting. But I do like it. I am a fan. For that reason, I will say that like ultimately, I'm just like glad that we have. Um, it's the only sport where it like makes sense, and it's like in the summer.
Yeah.
It just seems like the best event timing wise too. It's like it's not penciling itself weirdly into around the Super Bowl, and even like the All Star weekend for the NBA is like kind of too close to the Super Bowl. Like there's just like such sports fatigue around the time they're trying to do that, and isn't like the hockey all-star game, it's all like it's all in this like weird time, and then like baseball is just kind of like, yeah, we took the week off, we're gonna be hitting dingers and eating hot dogs if you want to come through, and it's like, man, that is exactly what I want to do in July.
Yeah.
It's like it is the right vibe
I
for
think
sure.
you nailed it. I think 100% it's just it works because it's the sport.
Yeah,
It these guys can go, they can laugh, they can have fun, they can try it, when they need to, they can sprint down a fly ball, but also like, if they get tagged out, they can still laugh at each other. And that makes it enjoyable for the fans because fans want to see that at that point. For some reason, that does not translate to the other sports. I mean,
yeah,
football is the hardest one to do, which is why, the Pro Bowl has all but completely failed. But even the NBA All-Star game, it's like when they're just like joking around, it's boring. It's boring to watch.
yeah.
Just guys like chucking up super far away threes and lobbing these super dunks with no defense. Like it's boring, it doesn't work. But for some reason, seeing a pitcher that's like the best guy
Hmm.
on a team come out there and show their stuff for an inning and then laugh it off when something doesn't go their way. For some reason that works.
Yeah.
And I also think it's really great for baseball because baseball, less than the other sports, doesn't promote their stars. So the All-Star game is also a great time. And like you said, the whole weekend, the home run derby as well. But for people that aren't in your hometown, that don't play for your favorite team, for you to get to know those players and find out like, oh, okay, this guy had 38 home runs so far. Wow, that's crazy. Whatever it is. It's just like it makes you learn more about the rest of the sport
Yeah.
and about the MLB. And I love it. I'm a huge fan, always have been. I did love it more when the winner was decided the home field advantage for the World Series. I thought that was
Yeah.
super cool because then there was something on the line. I spent a lot of time debating with people that went, yeah, that's not fair because the team that won the most games should get it. Um, I also understand that. I've also had people say, why do you feel that way when the American League has won like 90% of
Yeah.
the
They
years out
yeah,
of the
they
last
did they
25
did the
years?
NL a favor, but
Yeah. But I'm a huge fan. And
yeah.
so congratulations to Freddie, who will go and represent the crew.
Yeah. Yeah, they name like reserves too, right? Like there is a world where like Sal could get a nod. I think he could be like deserving of appearance. I forget exactly how that
Yeah,
fully works,
I
but
don't they I don't know how that works. And to be honest with you, I've never really like that's the other thing. Like with the Pro Bowl, it's like, oh, well, if you're named a Pro Bowler, like that counts for something. I don't know that making it to an All-Star game like means anything in that regard. And to be honest with you, like unless I'm feeling like, hey, you better look out, our guys have stuff. I don't really care if we have one guy there or three guys there. I don't
Mhm.
feel like our players have ever really shined in All-Star games, besides Prince, and that was like what, 1 year.
Yeah.
I remember like when Weeks made it too, and I was like, okay, Ricky, and then like he went like 0 for 3, like with
Yeah.
strikeouts. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
mind, never mind. So, but I'm just I'm happy with how things are going right now. 4 games out of first behind the Cubs in the standings.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, we were 2 games back when we
Yep.
checked in last week about the Brewers, but I mean, you sweep the Guardians, you take 2 of 3 against the Cards, you put up monster numbers against them 2 of those 3 games. It is what it's gonna be.
You just got
I
to
do
keep
want to
fighting.
yeah,
You just got to keep
exactly.
fighting.
Yeah, it's like you were talking about the Rockies, and I said it's tough to really think that you should walk into anybody's or stadium and sweep them. But man, Marlins are pretty close behind. I mean, they were 8-2 their last 10 games heading into the series, so you know they've been playing better baseball. But man, that Saturday game, we don't really talk about like specific games, especially when we're talking like a weekend wrap up. But like that game was particularly frustrating, especially because Reese Hoskins of all people gets a triple in the second inning, and he just sits there for 3 more outs, and then that's
Mhm.
it. And then the only person who drives in any runs all game is Jack Churio. And then same thing today, but at least it was for a win. But um, the bats in June were red hot, and I think we were hoping that we would see um, that carry over a little more. Obviously, it's pretty early, and it is what it is. Road trips are hard, but man, you definitely didn't want to split against uh, a pretty middling Mets team and the Marlins of all teams, especially heading into a 3-game set against the Dodgers. Luckily, it's in Milwaukee,
Yep.
and Shohei pitched today, so we don't have to encounter him at all. But man, they need to they I don't know. I don't know how you fix I know how you fix it. You get players who actually have a good enough bat to fix it, but you can't fix runners in scoring positions with the types of bats that they have right now. They either need to be hot. I mean, it's pretty disappointing because I felt like in the big winning stretch, we were getting a lot of production out of that 7-8-9. So we're talking like the Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin,
Hmm.
um, the Isaac Collins, and they've all come back down to earth quite a bit. And I think Joey specifically, 2 different opportunities driving runs yesterday. He didn't. I don't think it's no surprise that Andrew Monasterio started at shortstop today. I don't know if maybe they feel like Joey just needs a break or if Murph was kind of saying like, hey, you got to get your head back into it. But either way, I don't think it's a secret why he did not start today.
Yeah,
So maybe I'm reading more into it than I should, but
I
I'm just
think
so
that's fair.
yeah. But was it today? Reese went out. That was today, correct?
I think that was
Yesterday.
yesterday.
It was yesterday. You're right. Sorry. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thumb.
Confirmed. He has like an MCL sprain on his thumb, like a grade 2. Yeah, MRI revealed a grade 2 left thumb sprain. MCL's not on the thumb. Anyways, MRI revealed a grade 2 left thumb sprain that will land him on the IL, according to Todd Rosiak. Roster move coming tomorrow, which means we are probably going to see the Brewers' debut of Andrew Vaughn, the
Yes,
scraps
I
we
think that
got
was
for Aaron
confirmed
Savali.
actually.
Yeah, I think it was as well now. That was kind of reported pretty early in the day. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, you trade a guy, he went down to the minors and was just smashing dingers the whole time. So
I would prefer he do it now for the Brewers. So
yeah.
no
So
time like the present.
you got Jake Bowers and Andrew Vaughn, and you see what you can do there. You know, we'll see. But yeah, the other big roster moves, obviously, like I said, Brandon Woodruff was reinstated, started today. That was pretty cool. Chad Patrick
Which is
option to
great.
AAA. Um,
Didn't care.
yeah, you should and you shouldn't. I mean, it's like what a luxury problem is just like the fact that we have too many starting pitchers. Like a month and a half ago, we were talking about how he was like Freddie Peralta was like the only healthy pitcher, and we're going, well, we're piecemealing enough talent together that we could, but it's like they're all healthy. You're looking at,
Now,
could you run a 6-man rotation? Maybe, but is it worth it? Apparently Nestor Cortez, I wish I don't know the numbers, but just hearing like he pitched a game down in Nashville and just dominated. I don't know if he comes back, but it's another problem. Nestor Cortez is a major league pitcher. Jose Quintana is a major league pitcher. You have Chad Patrick and Logan Henderson who are on the cusp of being no doubters. And I think Chad Patrick probably is already there. Um, you know, it, it, he's been the victim of not enough offensive run support. The guy's young.
who hasn't? That's the problem. If you have
Yeah,
too many pitchers and you have enough offense,
yeah,
you got to pick a few of these guys to try to move
yeah,
for a bat.
yeah. They got to flip. They got to flip one or two of these guys and a prospect for a certified bat, and I think it probably does. I mean, unless Reese is going to be. I mean,
Even
a
with
thumb sprain
Reese.
for like a grade 2 thumb sprain is going to keep him out for like 2 weeks. Like, I don't think it's really, you're not going to really land a first baseman. They need to get a third baseman. It could not be more obvious. They need a third baseman, or they need to get a shortstop and move Joey back to third. I mean, defensively, he can clear both positions. That's not really a concern. I
Yeah.
really liked Ortiz's defense at shortstop. So, the path, the shortest distance between two points is a straight line. We need an offensive bat. Our third base produces nothing on offense. We have no guys who can actually do it. So it's like it's pretty straightforward. I don't think Andrew Vaughn is going to be the answer to move to like third base when he comes
No.
back. I don't even think he can. He's like what, like a first base
Yeah.
outfielder? Like he's not. That's not his position anyway. So it's like I'm not trying to get to like positionless infield baseball. That's how you like turn into the Yankees, where you have a bunch of guys who kind of can't make throws around the diamond, and you know what I mean. But the Brewers got to do something, because I think
Yes, they
I
do.
think at the start of the season we were very clearly all talking like, are we sellers? But we fought and we got back to being under 5 games around a team that's surging like the Cubs is great. And so it's like, what are we going to do to make sure that we can have enough firepower to close the gap and then maybe compete? Because I did not think we were going to be at this position. You could, if you wanted to go back, listeners, and take a look at our offseason heading into the season, I was like, we're not going to win games with just like dominant pitching anymore. It can't be the way we win. And it's like, well, yes, it can. And we're right back to where we're at. And which makes me also want to touch on some other stuff I was thinking too. It's like, Nick Mears, he got pieced up pretty bad yesterday. That kind of blew that game open.
Yep.
Koenig's good, but I think like he inherited a bad spot, and had what, he needed one more out, and then he just gave up a single. These guys have been, it's very clear that if at any point Murphy wants to win a game, he's going to trot out Mears, Koenig, Uribe, McGill. And I think he's trotted that out a little too much. So I'm hoping they can get some more looks or some more offense. Would just mean that like these games aren't so close that we're spamming the exact same lineup. But
Yep.
Nick Mears is not a 5 out of 6 games in a series type of pitcher. Neither is Koenig. Uribe has what, like the second most holds in the league. He's been fantastic. Even when he hasn't been great, he's still a fantastic reliever. And like, could you trade Trevor McGill, who's been playing really well? I know a lot of Brewers fans are frustrated that he's not just going in and not giving up runs, but at the end of the day, like he still has been pitching very, very well for a
True.
role that I don't think, they got him off of the scrap pile from the Twins, and now he is the like premier pitching labs dominant closer. So it's just like maybe you could flip him for something. But what a fortunate spot to be in, right? Like I just think like
Yeah,
this time, even 2 months ago, we both were kind of saying like, well, hopefully we can just find more guys that can figure their stuff out for next year.
can help
Can
this. Yeah,
who can come up? But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the game to watch, and like I said, and I should have, maybe it's my fault and you can blame me, but
I get
Mizorowski
you,
got
man. Yeah.
pieced up last start. He finally came down to earth a little bit. Those control concerns, especially against lefties, a lot of his pitches that moved to the right, man, they were a lot of balls. So hopefully he comes back, bounces back. He's every pitcher gets dinged up or roughed up a little bit from time to time. Case in point, the outing before that, Skeens did too. So it's
Right.
these are young guys; they'll figure it out. But he's going against Clayton Kershaw. It'll be the last time Kershaw pitches in Milwaukee. So just like a really cool matchup. And then obviously we get Freddie tomorrow, and then is it? I
I
don't
was
know who's.
I was going to ask, do you know? So it's Freddie's on the mound tomorrow,
Yep,
and
yep.
then
Then it's Miz on Tuesday against Kershaw. That's
okay,
for sure, unless the Dodgers pull something out. And then it's Quintana versus May. And then
okay,
yep. And then Washington comes in. And then Priester, Woodruff, Logan Henderson, Chad Pat, I mean, whatever.
take your
So
pick. Yeah,
these guys, got options, but I mean, Priester's been pitching really well. I think Chad Patrick's going to be in AAA for a little while until somebody gets hurt or until they
I
free up
agree,
some space.
and
But
I'm like I said, I'm fine with that.
but yeah, so
But
happy Brandon Woodruff Day. We took 2
yes,
1.
happy Brandon Woodruff return day. Love that, and hopefully, knock on wood, we got what 5 or 6 games left before the All-Star break. When we're talking next week, there's a good finish to the first half. Um, let's move on. Hard pivot to the Bucks, who
Yeah.
right after our episode that we did last week decided to make all the moves, just
Mhm.
all of them.
Yeah.
So break down everything that happened.
I don't even know.
The biggest thing was
Yeah.
Myles Turner.
Right. Yeah.
Miles Turner's buck, and Dame is not a buck.
No, he was waived and stretched. It's the largest contract of all time to be waived and stretched by any organization. Yeah, no, let's just go through the transactions, then you can kind of like
Yeah,
jump in and jump out afterwards. First things first, I feel like I got it pretty spot on in the terms of like the free agency primer. I'm gonna pat myself on the back there.
as you should.
They signed Bobby back, or he agreed very quickly.
Yep.
Did that happen while we were recording? I can't
No,
remember.
that happened a little ways before.
Okay. Yeah. He announced, and that was great. And I remember saying to you specifically, we can't lose both our centers and expect to have anything. Bobby frees up some stuff. So yeah, he announced his re-signing. Then they announced that they were bringing back Kevin Porter Jr. They announced that pretty fast, actually. And then shortly after that, they announced that Gary Trent Jr. was re-signing on a pretty team-friendly deal. The Bobby Porter deal is still a very team-friendly deal. And good for Bobby for coming back at that point.
Yep.
I remember we did talk about this. What else? And then
Well,
that
the
same
announcement
day.
that Brooke
Well,
was out.
Brooke. Oh, yeah, you're right. Before even the KPJ, we knew Brooke signed a backup point guard or a backup center deal to be a Clipper. I think it's like what, 2 years, $9 million.
Something
Pretty,
like that.
yeah. It's not a lot. But I think it's good. I mean, ultimately, like as much as I love Brooke Lopez and his number needs to be retired as a Buck, just straight up, he's a huge reason that Giannis was able to get as many accolades as he did. He freed up Giannis to do that offside help defending at a level that we've never seen before, especially in 2019 and 2020. Fact of the matter is, it was time for him to move on. Even
Yep.
at a backup role, we don't have the personnel around him to make up for his lack of mobility, right? And he
Yep.
would become really situational. I think it'd be really hard to ask him to do that in this situation. So, and we talked about this last week. That's why I was saying, like, I think it's just time we cut bait with Brooke. Sadly, if he wants to keep playing, he's got to go do it somewhere else, and he did. So that's great. So, so that happened. And then so that was Monday, right? We go through Monday. We're still wondering what's going to shake loose. Who are we signing? what can be done. And then super early Tuesday morning, Shams Charania reporting that Myles Turner has agreed to the contract. I don't have the full details. It's like 2 years. No, it's on like Giannis's timeline,
It is.
which is great. Um, I'm vamping. Of course, when I type in Turner contract, it does not.
Yeah, hold on.
4-year, $107 million
There you go.
deal with former Indiana Pacer Myles Turner. Yeah, I mean that was incredible. I mean, we can just talk about it. One of two things. It's crazy that the Pacers let him walk, and that the fact that they didn't even really offer anything competitive, and that the Bucks were able to swoop in and grab him. Like, what an incredible move by John Horst. And it's for two reasons, right? They have never paid the tax in the last 20 years. They do not want to.
Right.
I think they would have if Halliburton didn't get hurt. Halliburton got hurt. They said, we're not going into the tax this year. I think they just assumed that Turner was going to take maybe a 1-and-1 like team friendly deal and be like, hey, can you just stick around long enough for us to recoup? And I think really the Bucks Horst must have got on the phone and said, hey man, we're losing Brooke. I'm not kidding when I say this. 3 years ago, I was thinking we got to figure out a way to get Myles Turner when he had when the Pacers had bird rights. The Suns offered him a contract and the Pacers had to match it because they knew how important he was. But it cannot be understated, even if for all of his defensive shortcomings, how important it is for a stretch five to play alongside Giannis offensively, right?
Yep.
And you're talking about he can't do everything Brook did, but he does 85 to 90% of what Brook did offensively, and then has other things in his bag offensively that he does do better than Brook Lopez does.
Yeah.
And defensively, he can switch and he can play the drop because he's 29 years old. He'll be 30 this season, but athletically, we got 8 years younger and basically found the only what I would consider. I've been saying this to friends of mine who are like Blazers fans. I was like, we found the only Brook variant in the league who was actually worth acquiring. And it's like the Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs thing. There was about 10 minutes where I was living in a world where I was like, man, Dame's going to come back and this is what the front court's going to be look like. And then boom. Yeah, that's where that news came almost immediately. We're waving, stretching Damian Lillard. That's how we're going to free up the cap space that would allow Myles Turner to sign on a $27 million contract yearly, which I did not think the Bucks could even afford. So your thoughts when you saw that. Yeah.
So they made it happen. My thoughts, first of all, I was very excited. And then right after my own excitement, then I always go to how does Giannis feel? And there were all these, rumors going around and people, in the media, because they always do it. And it's just annoying at this point. But first and foremost, because the Myles Turner deal was announced first before the waiving of Dame, the wave and stretch. And so it was like, I was expecting people to talk about that first, but that's not how it worked. The media came out talking about, Giannis not being happy with Dame being let go. And then it became, the news about Myles Turner. And then there were reports that Giannis was part of the reason he was there and that Giannis reached out to Myles Turner and said, come play with me in Milwaukee. Which, do you believe that Giannis had a part in bringing Turner to Milwaukee?
I do. I mean, that Haynes report reeks of a pretty quick check-in with Dame, or maybe just some PR massaging of this idea. Giannis can't be known as a guy who is just willing to cut bait on guys who can't help him win championships, right? There is a pattern of the Bucks needing to go all in around him, and it has always been the organization. This is the first move where I think Giannis could maybe have put his hands up and gone, hey, we tried it for 2 years. This ain't working. If we're going to win another championship, we got to move it in another way. And I don't think he would have ever meant that as you got to get rid of Damian Lillard. But do I think Horst called him and said, hey, you like Myles Turner? This is true, right? Well, if we can bring him in, here's this very creative way, very bold thing we can do to make sure that we aren't just taking a season off, right? And I think that's probably where the truth lies, somewhere in that zone. I think Giannis is not happy they had to move on from Dame, but I think Giannis is very happy, probably knowing he's not going to have to really play at the 5 next year if they don't have to. You know what I mean? They don't have to go small to match up with athleticism with guys like Myles Turner, Jericho Sims, who also resigned. We didn't talk about that. And Bobby
Mhm.
Portis coming back. Like, it keeps Giannis right where he wants to be on defense. And I think something that fundamentally this team lost the last 2 years with Damian Lillard is Giannis likes playing defense. I think there was such a deficit up and down the court that he also had to change his identity. Obviously, he's always going to put up his numbers. Like, give me a break. Like, he's one of the best to ever do it on the offensive side, especially when you're talking about just like getting in the paint. You know, Shaq levels of dominance. I'm not saying anything new, but
Yep.
that he wants to hang his hat on being a defensive player. And I think like that's this whole retooling of the roster, while really not adding anybody too groundbreaking, at least allows them to get back to that mindset that I think won them the championship. We are going to make your life miserable in the paint, and you're going to have to figure out a way to shoot lights out on us. And if you can't, it's going to be a game over for you guys. And I think like I've been seeing a lot of reports where like, what? So your number 2 is Myles Turner? Like, that's not enough to get it done. And I don't disagree. I think they're being wildly disrespectful to Giannis by saying like, is this a play-in team? Like, give me a break. Just like
Sure.
absolutely just like give me a break. But I will say, you know, the other moves they made, they brought in Gary Harris, who, if he can stay healthy, is a pretty good shooter. They got Gary Trent Jr. back. They can extend AJ Green as early as tomorrow. His like rookie contract expires, or I forget how it works, but basically he's on his last year, and so he'll be extension eligible starting tomorrow. So they have shooters. The biggest question has been who's going to play point guard when it's
Right.
not
We
Point
need a point
Giannis,
guard.
and you just need a guy who can play defense on their point guards. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, you got Point Giannis." It's like, but on the defensive side, who can play
Right.
defense well enough to like, and also you just need people who can create. Just because Giannis can't be on the court 48 minutes.
Right.
So obviously KPJ is not bad. And then yeah, like I said, as we moved on to the Bucks thing, well, while we started recording, like truly 5 minutes before, reported that Ryan Rollins is coming back on a 3-year, $12 million contract. So there's your bingo bango. Ryan Rollins will be your starting point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks alongside Giannis. I would get defensively, he's a lot better than KPJ. You pair him alongside Gary Trent Jr. or AJ Green, and that gets significantly more interesting. And then I don't know. I'm not in love with the roster right now, but I'm very happy with the roster because I think these types of moves, this types of retooling is. I did not think there was another way the Bucks could show Giannis a way to go all in a third way. I just have never seen a team be able to do this,
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
definitely
like
creative.
ultimately, I don't think they do these moves if they think they can't keep Giannis. I think that's the conversation. I don't know if he's in love with Myles Turner, like the pick or the move. I don't know if he's pissed off about the Dame thing, but at the end of the day, they had a conversation like, what if we get you a guy more on your timeline? Here's what we're thinking of the backcourt. We might have to lose Dame to make it happen, but if they did, like, where are we at? How are we feeling? Because the other conversation we're not having too is like, we still have Kyle Kuzma on this team. I don't think he fits on this team. I
No.
understand why you trade Chris for him, and you hope that maybe that athleticism can be a spark. I think him and the 2031 first round pick could bring in a really interesting wing player. We traded Pat Connaughton for a salary dump to be able to get Myles Turner for Micic. People
Yep.
are like, he's a point guard. They can't take on that contract. A huge part of that is him giving away most of that contract on like a buyout, just like forfeiting a lot of that money so he can go play overseas. And I'm pretty sure it's in the Greek league. Like, I'm pretty sure it's already been announced that he signed there. So this is all just X's and O stuff. So a
Sure.
lot of signings have been made official today. I thought more would be, but there's a lot of moving parts right now. They need to free up enough cap space to be able to sign Myles Turner. And then Bobby Marks just has tweeted because of the Ryan Rollins stuff, because of how it's going to go over. When the Bucks waived and stretched Dame, they had a projected $19 million room. They still needed to clear out additional salary to sign Myles Turner. Once Myles Turner is signed, because people are going to ask you about this, Milwaukee can exceed the cap to sign Ryan Rollins, Gary Harris, Torian Prince, and Jericho Sims. Reason being is that they can go over the cap to sign your own free agents, people that are already on your roster. And then there's like a bunch of mid-level exceptions. There's like a room exception, biannual. That's stuff I'm less familiar with because I'm not a cap nerd like that. But it just sounds like there is possibilities for us to land at least one more vet min guard.
Yeah,
Which all signs are pointing to maybe Bradley Beal. It sounds like Bradley Beal is going to give out enough money back to the Suns to get bought out, and he'll
which
be a
is
free
crazy.
agent, which is crazy. I love Ryan Rollins. I like KPJ as a player. Bradley Beal's better than these guys. I don't know what to say. Even if you think he's bad, it was a bad fit in Phoenix. He was unhappy in Washington. Fact of the matter is, the dude is just better than these guys. And the real reason you had to talk yourself out of Bradley Beal all the time, because that contract was an absolute albatross. And no team should take that on. The Suns did. They are feeling those effects. And they're feeling it harder because we at least waved and stretched Dame to go get somebody. They're literally doing it to just try to get under the cap and wash their hands of all of this.
Yeah,
Like that contract basically made them lose Kevin Durant because Durant was the only movable asset in that whole situation where there wasn't going to be so much penalties and ramifications and hard capping. So, do I think he comes here? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is we're in a position to land a pretty good point guard. I mean, I wasn't even happy last week. I posted to some friends. I was like, I can't believe I think CP3 might be our best option at point guard if he would come here on a vet man. And it sounds like he's going to go back to the Clippers and finish his career out there. I think that's an incredible story. Like, don't get me wrong, that's awesome, but they need a guy. And Ryan Rollins, I think, showed a lot of promise, but I don't think they're
I don't
done.
think he's that. Yeah, I don't think he's that guy though.
I know.
I think that they need more.
Yeah.
I think they do need another person. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, there were also rumors of bringing, like, trying to find a way to bring Drew back in. I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. I think I like that they struck early because it did make me think, okay, they're not done. Like they just got out ahead of things, and so hopefully there's still some more coming for
Yeah.
the Bucks. I also wanted to ask you, do you, and this will probably be the last biggie here on Dame, but do you think Dame ends up getting signed by another team? Because there were also rumors that, like, with him being out for the rest of the year,
Mhm.
or for potentially, depending on how much he played this upcoming season, blah blah blah, that like the Bucks could bring him back in a different way. Do you? It does. It seems like there are enough interested teams, even with him sitting out the majority of this year,
Yeah.
that are going to go after him.
There's a team that's going to pay him. And the reason also being is because, so there's another thing too about that wave and stretch. Like the way it works is you take the length of the contract, you add an additional year, and then you divide that up. And so basically, that's how that's working. It's
Yeah,
5 years because, oh, I'm sorry, it's twice the length of the contract and add a year. So Dame had 2 years left. You turn it into 4, you add one, then you divide those number of years by the contract, right? So that's where they're getting that like 22 million from. He's making 22 million years, $22 million a year from the Bucks the next 5 years. And if he
regardless of what he
retired right
does.
now, no
Yep.
matter what happens, that gets a little wonky. And I had the formula a little more fresh in my head. Somebody posted it. If he signs any contract he signs over minimum for like a year of service, that year of service, let's say it's just 1 year. And if there's more years, it would, but whatever he signs, let's say he signs for a $6 million contract somewhere this year. Seems unlikely, but let's say he did. They got in a bidding war and they signed him for 6 years. That 3 million would then be divided in half and then divided by the 5 years of service. So you're not talking about this like huge numbers of savings, right? But there are ways for that number to get lessened. I am saying all of this because I think it's important to realize that like if the Bucks thought Dame was just going to retire if they waived and stretched him, they might not do it. I think there is a very good chance Dame gets. I don't know if he gets signed now or on the last day you can sign somebody because it sounds like other reports where Dame was really adamant about pushing to try to do his rehab in Portland so he could be with his family, and the Bucks were not having it. It sounds also like maybe the Bucks were hip to this idea that reports have come out now that Dame was probably going to opt out of his player option after next season and explore free agency because it just didn't work out the way we thought it would. Injuries,
Yeah.
chemistry. I don't know what it was. I don't really. This is not the moratorium on Dame podcast because like there's too many other moving parts for the Bucks to make sure that Giannis is content. But I mean that is a conversation we could have down the road, maybe once he signs. But it just didn't work, and they still
No,
were the
it didn't.
highest scoring duo in the league for the 2 years they played together. But it didn't translate to winning, and not enough,
And that's all that matters.
and it
For
could
the
be
record.
due to the failing health and athleticism of the team around them. But this is what happens when you push your chips all in and you keep moving to add proven veteran players. Because I can't fault Dame for the season he had last year. He almost had a life-threatening blood clot and he came back and then he tears his Achilles, right? Like
Right.
he was dealing with other things. Like you talk his entire time here is going to be marred with the fact that like he missed his family. It was a huge change. He didn't ask to come to Milwaukee. I think he was a good little soldier about it. I'm bummed. Living in Portland, I will always remember where I was when I found out he was becoming a Buck. I thought for sure this was going to be like an easy speed run to another Larry O'Brien, and to have it be not only not that, but honestly two of the hardest years I've ever watched basketball because of watching just 2 more years of Giannis's prime being wasted. I'm ready for a fresh start too, and I think maybe this will age like spoiled milk, and I'll be very naive in saying this, but I just am so interested. I don't know about excited, but I'm very interested to see what this team looks like next year. And it makes every regular season game matter in a very long time. All
Yeah.
of these games matter, especially if they can't find a trade partner for Kuzma right away. I think eventually they're going to move him. I think they need to get a more solid three. They don't really have one besides like Andre Jackson Jr. now. Torian
Yeah.
Prince is a 3-4. Kuzma's a 3-4.
They're
But
missing pieces. They're still missing pieces after all of these moves.
yeah,
The Bucks are still missing pieces, and I do love the creativity, and I think it's a good sign for Bucks fans to show this front office is willing to find ways
yep,
to make Giannis happy, which
yep,
is always been the most important thing to me.
yep.
Just keep Giannis happy, however you
Totally.
can,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
doing that.
Yep.
So,
Because the other truth is, in 3 years, when we trade Giannis, if we trade Giannis, I
stop.
mean, what I'm saying is, when people talk about like they're going to be eating this Dame contract for 5 years, it's like who cares? They're going to be trying to find ways to spend enough money. They're going to try to be so bad with the player. Like post Giannis 20 years, this universe that I'm speaking of. I think about all the teams, the Pistons before last year, the Wizards, the Blazers, where they're actually having to take on contracts because there is a floor. You have to spend a certain amount of money to
Right.
feel, you know what I mean? It's like we're not going to be worried about that 20 million when we stop being competitive with Giannis, whenever that is. And I'm hoping Giannis outlasts the Dame wave and stretch, and it's all good and it's all gravy. But like, let's be realistic here. The minute Giannis goes, we're a bad team until we get the next group of we draft the next superstar that forces us to go all in. You know what I mean? That's just the truth. So,
Yep.
so we'll see. Like I said, I said a lot of things last week about the ways I wanted this team to stay the same, so we could try to keep Giannis around. But man, adding Myles Turner, forget the Dame contract; he wasn't going to play. Adding Myles Turner on this team really makes it exciting in a very
Blew it all
different
up
way.
again.
In
Yeah.
a very different way I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, we were all of a sudden we were right back to oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Okay, here we go. We're right back in it. I love that. I love to see what the owners and the team continue to do. I want to see what the Brewers can do down the stretch here before the All Star break. It's still a very exciting time to talk about Wisconsin sports, Milwaukee specific, and yeah, hopefully good things will happen this week before our next pod, which I appreciate everyone tuning in for. Do you know why, John?
Yeah, I totally do. But remind me.
Because we're not done yet.